Steve, pretty early in the night, that governor's race was called, declaring Governor John Carney the winner over newcomer Julianne Murray. It was really those mail-in votes that pushed Carney over that finish line. While so much has changed in this past year due to COVID-19, one of the traditions that remains the same is picking out your Christmas tree. But one thing we learned while visiting Don's Tree Farm as they prepare to open this weekend is there's actually a national Christmas tree shortage. And if you have a specific one in mind you'd like to bring home this year, you should probably head out early. Lawmakers say this is sensible legislation that is within the purview of the Constitution, but the president of Delaware Gun Rights says they want to be part of the conversation and that these bills are not the solution. Just above that freezing temperature, that's where you really have to pay attention. You have to be careful on your morning commute. It's beautiful here right now with all this white stuff coming down, but not so great for driving. But you know what it is great for? Bill, it is great for a snowball fight. So I think we're going to have some fun out here in the snow while you guys are stuck inside working this morning. The first post read, "Come pissed, come armed." That's a direct quote. It's since been taken down, and a new post is in its place saying violence will not be tolerated.
It was given about 5 o'clock this morning to a nurse at Bay Health in Dover who works with COVID patients. And now things are really ramping up. Bay Health vaccinating more of its frontline medical workers. WBOC's Cassie Semyon is live in Dover tonight. Cassie, you were there as one of those first doses was delivered.
Steve, you could feel the energy and the excitement in that room as they were preparing the vaccines for the staff. They have been overwhelmed for months with COVID patients, and one doctor who received the vaccination today said today brought her hope that one day we can return to normal. For months, we have heard horror stories coming out of hospitals as they treat COVID patients.
I have seen perfectly healthy people like us die. And it emotionally really takes a toll on you. Coming into work takes a toll on you. And you keep doing it because we love what we do. We're very blessed to do what we do.
But now a story of hope as the first vaccines were given to hospital workers today in Dover. Dr. Kelly Abresha, medical director of emergency services, says this is the light at the end of the tunnel as she continues to treat COVID patients.
By 11 o'clock yesterday, when I got here at 8, I had already admitted 5 very sick COVID patients in 3 hours.
Abresha says she is a skeptic and did her own research on the vaccine. She wants the public to know this immunization is safe.
I would not have gotten the vaccine if I didn't think it was completely safe and completely appropriate. I feel very strongly about that.
Now we wait for the day until all of us have access to the COVID vaccine. Now the state says it won't be until late spring or early summer that the vaccine will be available to the general public. The state is also waiting on the Moderna vaccine. The Moderna vaccine is what the FDA calls very effective, and it could be approved as early as the end of this week. And if that happens, they could show up here in Delaware, those 8,000 doses that the state ordered, by next week. In Dover, Cassie Semyon, WBOC News, Delmarva's news leader.
Cassie, the two voters say they're concerned that voting by mail could lead to fraud in the upcoming election.
That's exactly right, Steve. And they also are concerned because they say that voting by mail is unconstitutional. Now, the state legislature has the right to enact laws based on emergencies to continue the continuity of government, but the lawsuit says it goes beyond that. One Democratic lawmaker we spoke to today called the lawsuit meritless. With Election Day just 76 days away and a 6-month pandemic still ongoing, 2 Delaware voters have filed suit against the state's Department of Elections, accusing vote by mail as unconstitutional. One of the plaintiffs, John Foltz, claiming application for ballots are being sent without confirmation of identity.
It has happened in the area I live in, west of Dover, that friends of mine, John, handed to me a application for a ballot. There wasn't people living in their house.
State Election Commissioner Anthony Albans addressed the concerns surrounding vote by mail today, but declined to discuss the lawsuit which he is named in.
So if someone has requested a ballot and then they've changed their mind, they can show up at their assigned polling place. The poll workers are trained to contact the county elections office. What they will do is then verify the information, and that absentee or vote by mail ballot will be voided. and then the voter will be allowed to vote in the polling place.
GOP Chairwoman Jane Brady worries about ballots being sent without confirmation of address.
One person voting multiple times is a potential. I mean, we've heard from people who got 8 ballot applications to their house, and they weren't for them. They had one.
But those applications are simply that, applications. They are not the person's ballot to vote. Democratic State Representative Sean Lynn, who is also a lawyer, called the suit meritless, and that if this suit was based in merit, it would have been filed months ago when the law was passed.
Frankly, I don't believe that this is based on the merits, that they're saying, hey, you know, this is unconstitutional because that argument has any merit. It's simply a way for designing persons to try to undermine the election.
A court hearing has not been set. And now, if you plan on voting by mail this election, there's a couple of things you need to know. You have to fill out an application for that ballot, either the one that is mailed to you or one online, and it asks you for a couple of things, including your name, your birthday, your party affiliation, as well as a signature. And if someone requested one in your name and filled it out and sent it back, they could be prosecuted for a felony. In our Kent County Bureau, Cassie, Semyon, WBOC News, Delmarva's news leader. It's one of the most holy days observed by Christians around the world, the crucifixion of Jesus Christ.
God, who by the passion of Christ, your Son, our Lord.
Good Friday is a solemn day marked with prayer and fasting, waiting for the resurrection. A number of those who believe took to the streets of Dover today to mimic Christ's walk to Calvary.
The cross was very heavy.
The procession through the streets of Dover led by 10-year-old Jesse Williamson, with stops along the way for prayer and reflection at Christian churches throughout downtown.
And having been made perfect, he became the source of eternal salvation.
Those out walking the way of the cross today, thankful to be surrounded by their neighbors, despite the cold and windy weather.
This is the third time that I have done this, and I have found that this is a wonderful way to meet other people of other faiths. It's typical, even if it's a little cool, it's just wonderful to be outside, especially now during the time of this pandemic, and to come together with other people that believe as you do, whether they go to your church or not.
The event holding special meaning after being forced to cancel the procession last year.
As we begin to come out of, if you will, the COVID pandemic, we as Christians, as believers, see this as a resurrection event. So like we are going to celebrate the resurrection of our Lord on Easter Sunday, this coming Sunday, we can also celebrate new life and new rebirth as we regroup and gather and change as we go into whatever the new norm is.
The journey not quite as long or difficult as the path Jesus walked, but for those who took the journey today, it symbolizes hope and community that many have longed for this past year. In Dover, Cassie, Semyon, WBOC News, Delmarva's news leader.